Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Marketing Mondays. It is Monday, August the 8th, 2022, and this will be Marketing Mondays number 64. So let me take a moment, as I always do, to get some people pinged in to the room, and then we will get going here. So I appreciate you guys tuning in, and I look forward to a great session this morning. So let me see real quick. All right. We have got everybody in. So thank you guys for tuning in. Guys and girls for tuning in. Looking forward to having a great episode today. Got a lot of good questions that came in this last week. Good to see you in here, Tim. As always, if you guys don't know the format, maybe your first time tuning in, if you are live and you're watching this episode, go ahead and put any questions that you have in the comments, and I will get to those. I always give a priority to the questions that come in during the episode in the comments. So if you're here live and you have a question, go ahead and put them in. If you have any questions about any of the other questions I've answered, a clarification, anything like that, go ahead and put it in the comments. I'll be glad to get to it. We do have some questions that came in through the last week, so we have stuff to get to. But again, we always give a priority to those that are here live. Good to see you, Dave. Good to see you, Eric. Thanks for tuning in. And again, we're going to get going here with the first question, but don't feel like if we're answering other questions, we don't have time to get to yours. If you have one, go ahead and put it in the comments, and I will make sure I get to it. Actually, right out of the gate, David's asked him, what is data-driven attribution with Google, and should I not opt out of the option that came from an email? Here's the thing, David. We have been spending some time with our Google rep over the last couple of weeks talking about data-driven attribution. I think Google is moving this way to where they're really going to do this. If you have your campaigns built properly, I think you can really gain a lot through data-driven attribution. Again, we're working with our Google rep to make sure we understand the best way to put our clients in to data-driven attribution. And ultimately, it's designed to use the power of the data that Google has been accumulating, all this data that they have, to get you a higher conversion rate on the money that you're spending. Ultimately, Google wants to produce the best product and the best results that they can for the people that are utilizing their platform. Data-driven attribution is part of that. And again, right now, it's important to get your Google Adwords set up properly so it can take advantage of data-driven attribution. And some of that's going to be required. Some of that's going to require you maybe embedding some code on your website so that Google can track some certain things and things like that. So again, without knowing how your AdWords are set up and if it's been integrated into your website, things like that, it's hard for me to answer whether you should just opt in or not right now. But I do think it's going to be an important thing. I know that in the next 12 months, Google is going to put an increased focus on it. Whenever they put an increased focus like that on something, it usually means that if you're not doing things the way that Google wants you to do, you probably are going to start getting worse results as a result of not opting in for some of these things. So I think it makes sense to understand what it is and start moving in that direction. So hopefully that answers your question, David. But again, it's not as simple as just maybe toggling it on. Your ads need to be built in a certain way. And there's also some other things you need to do with regard to embedding some code and things like that on your website, such that you can take the most advantage of the data-driven attribution. But ultimately, I think it's going to, if you take full advantage of it, it's going to allow you to get better conversions for the dollars that you're spending. So it's absolutely going to be a good thing to be involved in my opinion, from what I know. And from speaking at length with our Google rep, we've spent a lot of time, most recently, really talking to her about that and making sure all of our clients are getting on board with it. So, actually, staying in the AdWords category, one of the first questions that came in this week was, my Google AdWords won't let me edit the ads. It says the ad format is not supported. What should I do? Part of what Google's tried to do, again, moving towards some of the things that they're trying to do, there used to be what they called extended text ads. And by extended text ads, you could put in a couple of headlines and you could put in a couple of descriptions. And if you wanted to put in more than that, you had to build another ad because you were limited to how many headlines and how many descriptions you could put in. But you could build out an ad group and you could have numerous extended text ads within that ad group. So if you wanted to get in different headlines and mix it up a little bit, you always had the option to do that. What Google has moved to is what they call responsive text ads and responsive display ads. And what they've done is they've actually made it so that you cannot edit extended ads anymore. So if you have those ads, they will continue to run. So if you have them existing in your account, they will continue to run, but you don't have the ability to go in anymore and edit the descriptions or edit the headlines. What they're trying to do is they're trying to push you towards these responsive text ads, which actually are better for you anyway. So let me explain what that is. Where you typically would put a couple of headlines, a couple of descriptions, and let Google play around with it. With the responsive text ads, it gives you the ability to put over 10 different headlines and I believe 5 different descriptions or 4 different descriptions. And what Google does is they utilize the data that they're collecting to mix and match the headlines and the descriptions to get you the most conversions. So again, one of the powers of utilizing Facebook or Meta's data or Google's data is utilizing it to your advantage to increase your performance on your ads. What responsive text ads and responsive display ads are allowing you to do is allowing Google to show a lot of different varieties to the people that you're targeting and start to figure out what's working and what's not, what combinations of headlines are working and which ones are not, and always serve up the ones that have the greatest propensity to convert. So again, it's utilizing the power. So that is the format you're going to have to go with. Now, I also mentioned responsive display ads. So what are those? Responsive display ads allow you to include an image in those responsive ads too. So you still include headlines, you still include descriptions, but you also include images that are relevant to that ad group. I think it's super important that you do that. It's going to allow your ads to stand out against maybe other competitors that aren't using responsive display ads. It's going to make your ads look more vibrant with a picture associated with it versus just a text ad. So you definitely want to do that. The other thing I'm going to talk to you about really quickly with regard to Google AdWords, I don't think there's another question that this answers ahead of time, but get into your extensions. A lot of people don't pay as much attention to the extensions that they need to. Call out extensions, structured snippets, image extensions, call extensions. They make a lot of different extensions that could go along with your ads, and you want to make the most use of those extensions, and that's going to help your ads perform better as well. So there's a lot involved in actually building out a Google AdWord campaign that's really going to work, and there's a lot of tweaking and things like that. Some accounts require more tweaking than other, depending on how much competition you have in your marketplace that may be running Google AdWords as well. Some markets, you could sort of get an ad going, it's going really well, and you can sort of, I don't want to say put it on cruise control, but it continues to operate really well. Other areas where you have competition that's always changing up what they're doing, you always have to be watching what's happening with your ads, watching what's happening with your data, and making tweaks so that you could stay ahead of the game on what's going on and stay on top of it. We have clients that fit in both of those categories. We have clients that their ads run really, really well and barely get disrupted. We have clients where we can get their ads running really, really well for 2 weeks, and then the competition makes the change in what they're doing, and that makes an impact on the results we're getting, and we have to make a change associated with that. So you just have to pay attention to what's happening. However, back to the original question about the ads, extended ads went away. You need to really consider converting to responsive ads, creating some responsive display ads, responsive search ads, and then maybe consider pausing or deleting your old extended ads, because I think you're going to get better performance from your responsive ads. So anyway, hopefully that answers that. If you have any questions, again, there's a lot you could dig into there. I touched on extensions and things like that. There's a lot you could dig into there on each one of those. Obviously, because the format today, us only having 30 minutes, it's really hard to jump into every one of those different extensions and describe how you might want to do that. I will tell you, though, maybe we can do that in a future episode, really dive into the extensions on Google and why you may want to do that and how you may want to fill those out, because they are really important. So please don't ignore your extensions. Billy asks, I see one ad almost any video I watch. It annoys me. Question is, how do I mainly see his ad? Well, clearly he's targeting something that maybe, I'm not sure what type of videos exactly you're watching, but there's maybe an interest graph that you are watching. Maybe you're watching outdoors videos. Maybe you're watching fishing videos. Maybe you're watching, different types of videos, overlanding videos, whatever it is. And you can target people that have certain interest graphs. So if you really watch a lot of that and somebody's trying to target an interest graph that you're interested in and spending the money, they can put themselves in front of you pretty regularly. And that sounds like what might be happening. It's the, if you're making less than 18,000 a year Amazon sales. Again, my only guess is that, Billy, is that there's videos that you're watching on YouTube that fit into an interest graph that person is targeting, whether that's a small business owner, whether that's, it's hard to tell exactly, but clearly there's an interest graph that particular advertiser is targeting that you fit into, and they're spending the money such that when you're watching videos, you're seeing their videos a lot. Also, if you've ever watched one of their videos or if you've ever clicked through one of their videos, you may be getting caught up in a remarketing type of ad where they're saying, okay, anybody that's interacted with one of our videos in the past, we really want to then really double down and target them even harder going forward because they've shown some interest. So without knowing all the specifics, I don't know exactly how to tell you what's going on there, Billy, but it sounds like that might be what's going on. So the next question is, this one I think has come up before, but I'll go ahead and answer it again. It says, what are the minimum ad spends on Facebook and Google to get results? This is, this is one of those things where it's really hard to answer because there's a lot of variables. So we've talked a lot again about ads and the competition you have. If you have competition that's buying ads, that's going to cause the cost of those ads to go up and the cost to get similar performance to go up. If you're in a market where maybe nobody's running ads in the same category that you are, you might be able to get away for far less money and still get results. So that being said, when I talk to any clients that we start to work with, typically I say to them that it's not even worth running AdWords. Even if you're in a low competition marketplace, it's not worth running AdWords if you don't have at least $10 a day to spend. And that is like the minimum. So let's just call it $300 a month to spend on just the Google ads part of the budget. That is, consider that a bare minimum. We have clients that are spending, actually we have clients that are spending upwards of $20,000 a month in Google AdWords. We have clients that are spending $3,000 to $4,000 a month in AdWords. And we do have clients that are spending $300 to $500 a month in AdWords. Depending on the market that you're in and the competition level within that market, you can achieve results. Now, here's the thing. If you don't have a lot of budget, you really want to get hyper targeted on what you're trying to do with regard to who you're trying to reach. You don't want to reach anybody that's not in your very focused market. So if you do have a tight budget, you're like, I really need to make these ads work. I need every dollar to go towards a very productive result. You want to get really targeted on who you're showing those ads to, whether that's on Google or whether that's on Meta. The more targeted you could get, the more you can make sure every dollar is going where it counts the most. If you have more budget, you can expand that net and you can start reaching out. Now, there may be a lot of people in that expanded net that are good potential prospects for customers, but you may be also reaching a lot of people that aren't great prospects. So, but if you have more budget, you can afford to have a couple misses in there in an effort to reach the larger scope. So if you have a smaller budget, I think it's more important to be more targeted and make sure you're just reaching the people that are really important. On Meta, I always say to people, depending on what you're trying to accomplish, bare minimum $5 to $8 a day would be like a minimum if you're just trying to do some branding things and get in front of people. So $150 to $200 a month there. Obviously, if you could spend $10 or more or $10 or more a day, 150 to $10 a day would be $300 a month. That's going to be better. It depends on what objective you're trying to reach. And again, same rules apply here that I just said to Google. You want to be very targeted with who you're trying to reach. You don't have enough budget to be really broad on your audience because you're going to run out of budget too fast, and you might be spending half your budget to reach people that aren't really good targets. So you got to really be targeted if you have a limited budget. As your budget increases, you can afford to sort of take a gamble on a bigger audience, a broader audience, in an effort to reach more people because you have a little bit more leeway. But when you're dealing with the bare minimums, you have to be much more targeted. So from that, I would say, you're looking at probably $10 a day for each one would be an absolute minimum, like a baseline. So let's talk about $300 for each one. We have some clients that are playing around with doing some branding things for less than $10 a day. And again, if you're running reach ads, you could do branding. It's kind of like a billboard. You're just trying to get in front of a lot of people. You can do that for less than $10 a day. But if you're looking to convert, if you're looking to get people to click through to your website, things like that, I would say look at $10 a day for each one of those platforms is kind of a bare bones minimum. And as your budget allows, I would even increase from there, making sure that you're continuing to make your ads targeted, but you might be able to expand that scope a little bit. So hopefully that helps there. Let me see. Billy says, what's the ROI on the results? I'm not sure if you're referring to the last question, Billy, or if there's something else that you're specifically referring to there. ROI, I was having this discussion with a client the other day, and he said, what would be considered a good ROI for marketing? And I said, think of it this way. If you combine anything you're spending on advertising, anything you're spending on an ad agency or somebody that is running your ads for you, if you're paying for that, if you're not doing it in-house, if you can put all of your costs associated with advertising in one lump, and say, how much return should I get on that? I like to look at it as a 10 times multiple of that. So let's say in a given month, between paying somebody to help you do social media, doing some social media ads, doing Google AdWords, you spent $2,500. My hope would be that $2,500 would help you generate $25,000 in revenue. So roughly 10%. If your return is in that category, you're probably doing okay. If you're spending about 10% on marketing, you're probably doing okay. If you're spending, let's say you spent $2,500 on all your marketing costs and it only produced $7,500 in revenue, well, that's clearly not sustainable. You're spending way too much on marketing to be getting those kind of returns. So my rule of thumb is be looking to try to get, when we're talking about our clients, I'm looking to try to get a 10x or more multiple for the marketing they're spending. So if they're spending $1,000, we want that $1,000 to produce $10,000 in revenue. Spending $2,000, $20,000, and so on and so forth. A 10x multiple of what they're spending. So hopefully, Billy, that helps. Hopefully that answers the ROI question. Again, I would look at it from a standpoint of, and there's going to be, just to be fair, I'm going to say there's going to be a diminishing returns. It's not inevitable, forever. So let's say that you're spending $2,500, you're getting $25,000 in revenue. If you're on a certain level of your business growth, you might be able to increase your marketing to $5,000 and maybe expect to get $50,000 in revenue. But you will reach a point where even if you put more money into marketing because of your marketplace demographics, the population, a variety of different things, where you'll start to see a tapering off. Like maybe you put in another $1,000 into marketing and you only see an increase of $5,000 in revenue. You'll start to notice a tapering off, and that's when you're sort of reaching maybe a little bit of a saturation point, or maybe you need to try some different things. but just know that you should be paying attention to that so that you're not overspending on marketing and continuing to put more and more money in the thoughts that it's going to increase revenue. Because in some markets, what you may have is you may run into a situation where you've reached a saturation point and you're having diminishing returns. And then you need to adjust to say, okay, where's the sweet spot of how much I could spend to maximize my returns without crossing over into starting to spend money that's not producing the returns. So, and see, I think that answered your question there, Billy. If not, please go ahead and clarify. I'd be happy to jump into it a little bit more. Here's a good question. What is the best way to handle a negative review when you don't have record that the person that left the review was ever a customer? That's a great question. So, obviously we like to push reviews are important, whether that's on Google, whether that's on Facebook, whether it's on Yelp or any other thing, reviews are important. But what happens when the inevitable happens, which seems to happen to everybody, that you get a negative review and you don't even know who the person that left the review is. You don't have any record of that they had a bad interaction with you or whatever. You maybe suspect that it might be competition that left you a bad review or something of that nature, but you don't have any record that you ever did business with this person, yet they left you a 1-star review or whatever the case may be. So how do you handle that? A couple different things. Most of the platforms have the ability for you to produce or submit essentially some feedback to say, hey, we don't have any record that we ever did business with this person, to review the actual review. The company would review the review to see if it's legitimate and potentially take it down if they feel that it's not legitimate. Just know, though, that a lot of times that's not going to be successful. You may submit one of those requests and they may still leave the review up. So how do you handle it if you went through that process, yet they decided not to remove the review and you're left to deal with this 1-star review? The way I would deal with it is I would reply. You always typically have the ability to respond or reply to a review. I would reply to that by saying, hey, I'm really sorry that you had a negative experience, Don, or whatever the case the person's name is. I'm not sure what happened. We don't show any record that we've ever done business with you. I just want to verify that you actually had a negative interaction with us. And I would potentially even leave a direct number, say, please call me on my direct number. We'd love to resolve this with you. Now, if it's a competitor or somebody that's just looking to leave you a bad review, that may not do anything. They may not call you. You're not leaving that response. In some ways you are. There may be a mistake. And if somebody reaches out to you, that gives you an opportunity to fix or clarify that. But in a lot of ways, you're not leaving that response for the person that left the negative review. You're leaving that response for everybody that comes after, that sees that negative review, reads it, and then reads how you responded to it. You showing a polite, interactive way of saying, hey, I apologize you've had a negative experience. However, we don't show any records that we've done business with you. Can you please help us understand if you maybe did the transaction with a different name or your wife or whatever the case may be, but showing a genuine interest in resolving the issue for the client, if the issue is legitimate, I think will speak volumes to the people that are reading that negative review later, that your company is, committed to trying to have good customer relations and taking care of problems. So again, don't think about that response as that you're responding to Don because maybe you think Don's a competitor or a competitor's wife or whatever that's just trying to screw you up. So you might have a little bit of an anger about that issue. But my point is, you're not leaving the response for Don per se, although you may be, but you're not leaving it for him. You're leaving it for everybody after the fact that's going to read your response and potentially taking that negative situation and turning it into a positive situation. That's how I would handle a negative review, especially one where I didn't have any record that we ever did business with that customer. So anyway, that's how I would do it. I don't think it's ever a good strategy to respond in a negative way or a reactive way to say, hey, we don't show that we ever did a business with you. You're just, I don't know what you're trying to do. don't respond in a negative way or a lashing out way. Respond in a way that shows, hey, we're committed to trying to figure out what happened and how we can help resolve it. If it is indeed our issue, I think it's going to speak volumes about your company and your commitment to customer satisfaction, as opposed to a knee-jerk reaction. Now, if you need to take a little bit of time before you respond, a day or two, so that you could craft that and not move on from a position of being upset about it, I would do that. But it's never, in my opinion, a good idea to respond negatively. So hopefully that helps with that question. Looks like we got 5 more minutes, so we can jump into, I think, one more. This is a good one. It goes back to talk about AdWords a little bit. How can I tell if my AdWords budget is being used on the terms I most want to hit? So what this person is asking is, they've got a certain budget. Maybe it's being consumed. Maybe they're running out of budget each day. How do they know if that's being hit with, if they're getting the people that are searching and the people that are running up their budget or using up their budget are people that are searching for the things they most want to hit? So when you set up your keywords in AdWords, you're going to set up a variety of different things. You could set them up as exact match, broad match, phrase match, things like that. How you set up keywords is very important to your AdWords as far as where your ads are going to show. If you set them up as broad match, you may be showing your ads to a lot of people that are, maybe there's a word or two that match, but it's not really the category you're going after. So it's really important to monitor something in AdWords called search terms. So when you go into your AdWords and you go under keywords, it gives you a couple different options. It gives you the ability to set up, what search terms you want to come up for, keywords, key phrases. But it also, if you look under search terms or search results, it will show you the things that people typed into Google that your ads were shown for. So it will show you a list of the what people typed into Google that they showed your ads for. You may find when you review that list that your ads are being shown to people and maybe even clicked on by people that aren't relevant. A good example of this is we do a lot of work for people that are in the automotive ceramic coating or paint protection industry. And often what happens, if you look at those search results, you start to see that their ads are being shown to people who are looking to get their cars painted or repainted or refinished or something like that. So it's not a really, or like auto body related stuff. So it's not a really good search, but it's talking about automotive paint. What we're talking about is we're trying to target automotive paint protection, and what people might be searching is automotive paint or automotive paint shop or something like that. But because there's automotive paint as a match, and maybe their AdWords were set up as broad match, they're triggering that ad and they're showing it to somebody that's looking for a body shop. So what you have to do is you either have to set that up to be either a phrase match or an exact match, so only people that are searching for automotive paint protection gets to see the ad, or you have to set up negative keywords for like auto body shop or paint shop or something, things like that, so that when people search for those things, your ads aren't going to show. I think you'll find you'll be very enlightened if you go into your AdWords and you look at the search terms that your ads are being shown for, that you may be spending part of your budget on ads on words that are not even relevant to your company. And you want to do either set those up as negative keywords or change your keyword strategy such that you're not wasting any of your budget showing your ads to people that are non-relevant. I think it's super important to do this on an ongoing basis. For our clients that we run AdWords for them, I'm consistently going into the search terms to look at what their ads are coming, what their ads are being shown for, like what search terms people are typing in, and always weeding that. It's like a garden that always needs weeding. You may have to set up some negative keywords. You may have to change some keyword strategy, but it's very important that all the dollars you're spending are going to go towards the people that are actually who you're trying to target, and that you're not wasting any of your budget targeting people that aren't really who you're trying to reach. Like an automotive paint protection shop isn't trying to reach somebody that's looking to have their car painted or looking to have auto body work done. They're trying to reach people that are looking to have their car paint protected. So although those things are similar, and sometimes Google is, can't differentiate between the two, depending on how you set your AdWords strategy up, you need to make sure that you're not showing your automotive paint protection ads to somebody that's looking for a body shop. That is the point. Whatever industry you're in, however your AdWords are set up, you need to be looking at that and making sure that what people are typing into Google matches who the people are that you're trying to reach. And if not, you need to either address that via a negative keyword strategy or changing up your keyword strategy. So hopefully that helps. If you have any questions about that, please let me know. It's super important. It's going to be super critical to help you get the most return on investment for your Google AdWords spend by making sure you're not wasting any of your money showing your ads to people that aren't relevant. So with that, we are right up against the 10:30 time frame. So hopefully you guys found some value in the questions that we answered today. As always, you can send me questions throughout the week. You can tune in next week. We try to come on live every Monday morning, 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 7 o'clock Pacific Time to answer your questions. We will always give a priority to the people that are in live that ask questions. So if you want to get a question answer, best way to do it is just to pop in live and throw your question in the comments. With that, I'm going to let you go. Hopefully you guys are going to have a terrific week. It's Monday morning. Like I said, hoping you guys have an awesome week and that you're already off to a good start. So with that, I'll talk to you soon. Take care, everybody.